So a couple months ago now, I was out camping and it was late at night and I took a tumble. I took a tumble right down the ravine, 15, 16 feet. Not a humongous amount of distance, but it was still a fall down a ravine. Rocks, trees, hard dirt, mud, you name it, jet black. Yeah, it was too far and too steep of an area to actually climb out of. So I had to take a little walk down the way to find a tree to climb up and get out of the ravine. But the amazing thing was, number one, that when I fell down, I slid backwards and I just went boom, and I fell. I just floated through the air, missing trees and rocks, and hit the ground. And it didn't really hurt. I heard a little bit. I did hear the in my head. And I thought, I wonder if anything's broken. That was my first thought. And then I started to chuckle. I laid there in the dark of this ravine, and I could hear my partner up at the truck in the distance. And I thought, he's going to wonder what the heck happened to me, because I just went over into the bushes to go pee and poof, I'm gone. Where'd I go? But I fell down this ravine, right? And I'm laying there. And I was laying there like with my hands up like this, and my legs all funky. And one shoe got left up at the top of the ravine, and the other shoe was somewhere down this trench that I was in. And I just was mesmerized. I was like, what the heck happened? How did that happen? It happened so quick. And wow, I'm breathing. And that was the first thing. I was like, all right. Do my toes work? Do my fingers work? I go, okay, everything's working. Everything's working. And how does me falling 15, 16 feet down this cliff, this ravine, have anything to do with relationship? What the heck could possibly be my point that I'm going to make to you? And the point is that if I had in that moment tensed up, granted it went really fast, I didn't even have a split second to grab a hold of anything, to do anything. But if I had tensed up, tightened my body, and started to reach for things, I probably would have hit the tree that I barely missed. I may have knocked my head on the rocks that I barely missed. My guardian angels were definitely working overtime for me that night. But I could have potentially thrown everything into a different direction by tensing up, by reacting in this high energy fashion. But instead, it caught me so off guard, and I just went with it, that I didn't get hurt. I really didn't get hurt. I had a couple little bruises on my legs. My hand was a little hurt, like right here. It was a little tense. But in the face of everything else that could have happened, like I could have been dead if I had hit that rock. I would have been dead. But I missed it all. And it was because I went with the flow. I relaxed into flexibility. Now, granted, guess what? It was an unconscious action, right? So this is an unconscious story of that I just, boom, was here 1 minute, next minute down here, and I didn't have the conscious time to be reactive. Now, here's the thing. In life, in relationship, and I posed a question earlier today about are the changes that you have in your intimate relationship that you've experienced, are they coming from a place of reactivity, which means is the outside world, your partner, the experiences that you're having, is that causing you to make a change? Or Is it a proactive change that you're seeing in your relationship? Meaning it's something internal. It's something that you've been feeling a change on. You're like, I want to get better. I want this. I want that. I'm not happy with this scenario. So I want to make personal changes to have this transformation in my love life, in my sex, in my relationship, in my connection, my intimacy. So that is a proactive change if we are doing it from the inside out instead of an action from the outside coming in, okay, and making us, forcing us to change. So how does that what does that relate to, like, my falling down the ravine? Well, yeah, that right there, it's the flexibility piece that I want you to really pay attention to. Okay, so much like it has been proven over and over again that when we get into accidents, car accidents especially, that people behind the wheel, when they know that they're getting into a car accident, they can see that it's coming and they tighten up their body and they get really, really strict with their body, that rigidness actually does more damage than the person who is asleep, like the passenger who fell asleep and didn't see it coming. And they get tousled around, me falling down the ravine, right? Get tousled around. But because of the looseness of their body, the flexibility, they don't get hurt nearly as bad, right? So that is a pretty consistent thing. We get that. But in relationship, we don't understand that. And right now, coming through everything that our world has been in with COVID and the shutdowns and people, in close quarters and not, having to deal with things that we never thought they would have to deal with, and our lives completely changing and probably our world never going back to what it used to be, right? So we have a choice here that we can become really rigid and very bitter towards all the changes in the world in general and the changes that creates into our intimate lives, our personal lives, our well-being, our children, our families, our houses, our homes, our work scenarios, right? So we can become very rigid and inflexible, okay? But what do we know about inflexibility? It's the person who's holding onto that steering wheel. It's if I had gone and become inflexible when I was falling, right? That inflexible person actually is more likely to break. So it is about the adaptability. It is about the ability to be flexible. Flexibility is strength, okay? And we tend to look at, hey Marissa, we tend to look at our relationships a lot of the times in such a structured, inflexible fashion. And we get very stuck in the way we think about things, what we're wanting, what we think or believe our needs are, what our expectations of our partner are, right? And we start to do this finger pointing. I can tell you that 85% of the time when a couple shows up in my office and sits down on my couch and they say, we're going through challenges, right? This is it. We're on the cusp of the end of our relationship here. Chances are it's not going to make it. And one, if not both parties, will point at the other and they will look at me and they will say, I need you to fix them. I need you to fix them because I don't have a problem. They're the one with the problem. And it is that inability to be flexible, to see our responsibility in any situation, to see that we too need to adapt, okay? And this is a big word that I want you to think about in your relationship, is the adaptability. What is your adaptability in relationship? How it relates to your work, your livelihood, outside of work even. There's plenty of people that have lots of extra jobs out there, right? What about your family life? What about your health? What about your sex? Aging process. We get very stuck in a certain pattern, very rigid. And that rigidness actually causes us to have less tolerance, less compassion, less love in general, a heck of a lot more critical and judgmental with our partners. And we just don't have the resilience So that bounce back, to come back from different situations, such as the whole COVID epidemic going on, right? Like everything and the changes that we're having. Well, we have to have a bounce back. Now we are learning how to adapt to the new world, right? To the way life is, to relationships and all this different stuff. We learn how to adapt, but how do we adapt inside our own relationship, that intimate relationship with our partner? What kind of things do we need to change that we can be proactive about so that we can get ahead of the curve on it? Guess what? When we are making changes, this is the way changes happen. It's just two ways that changes happen. Changes either happen where God, universe comes along and throws you off of a ravine and makes you go, change. And it's the universe yelling at you, change, damn it, change. This is the thing. So it's like really big ticket items happen in your life. And you're like, what the heck? Am I cursed? What's going on? Why is all this shit happening? Right? Well, why do I feel this pressure, this anxiety? Pressure, anxiety. This is saying that we are wanting for things that we're not aligned to. It's saying that it's right there, but we're blocking ourselves from receiving it. And that means right down to the relationship that we want with our partner, whether it is a partner that we have right now, or if we're single and we want to call in a partner. When we feel that, what we're saying and what we're being told in that is that we're not in alignment and that we have to open ourselves up. So what does open yourself mean? It doesn't mean to just stop everything, to put it all down. I mean, this comes back to like surrender, right? Like, what is surrender? Surrender is keep doing the actions that you know you need to do. Don't stop doing everything, but at the same time, stop attaching and grasping and tightening up around it. Back to that flexibility piece, right? So much like our physical body, a physical body that is flexible is more resilient. Okay, when we are flexible, we are resilient. When we are not flexible, we are more easy to break. Okay, so I want everybody out there to start to think about, like, how are you adapting to different scenarios? You know, the small things, the big things. How can you be proactive in your actions, in your thoughts, in the way you are choosing to feel about something? Okay? So the rigid person is going to point outward and see how the world is attacking them and pushing them. Okay? And the flexible person, the person that is resilient and adaptable, is going to take a moment and pause, to breathe, to come back to self, get aligned. Okay? Maybe that's prayer time. Maybe that's meditation time. Maybe that's just take a walk out in nature, or sit out in your backyard and take some good deep breaths and let the sun hit you. Whatever that might be. It is coming into self consistently every single day. Taking a moment to get aligned, to slow your roll and just get aligned with yourself so that you can feel yourself. Because as long as you're feeling that pressure, as long as you're feeling that anxiety, that right there says, I'm not in alignment. And when you act from that place of not in alignment, you are acting from a rigid state, a forcing state, a chasing state, a state of stress, of I don't have, I can't have, it's not available to me, I'm not worthy, I'm not enough, fill in the blank. You're operating from your victim, your pain body, in that moment of fear, instead of faith and certainty and surrender, where everything just comes to you because you already know that it's there. And that means that you're being flexible. You can see things. You're taking the time to get into that alignment. You're taking the time to realize that, hey, I can get ahead of this by the thoughts I'm thinking, the way I'm choosing to feel about this moment, this day, my future. I can choose to be happy right now, even though there's shit going down all around me. Much like me laying on the bottom of that ravine, right? Just picture it, you know, boom, there I am, laying on the bottom of the ravine, laughing my butt off because I realized the funniness of it. I realized the blessing of it. I felt blessed when I hit the ground. I felt like, wow, I just experienced this whole thing of like, just let go. Just let go and you will be taken care of. You're still safe. You're still provided for. And that I see it every single day in my life. I've witnessed it over the last decade very firmly as I really learned about alignment and getting into that alignment and what that surrender feels like. Surrender feels like coming home. Surrender feels like there's no worry. There's not a pressure around it. You don't have anxiety around it. You don't have anything going on. Just yesterday, I felt surrender. We were house shopping and we went into this house and it felt like home. And I just was like, yeah. And I just felt all this pressure of having to get this move done that we're in, of the holidays and the travel and the workshops and everything that I have on my plate. And I felt all of that just wash away when I walked into this one house. And my partner said to me afterwards, how'd you feel about that house? And I said, I feel relaxed. I feel really relaxed. And you know what? Last night, we got the house. I knew we had the house because I was so relaxed. I didn't feel anxiety. I didn't feel a rigidness. I didn't feel a need to chase. I knew that I was in alignment. I knew that he was in alignment. I had bliss, joy, peace come up inside of me. It was beautiful. And what that was, hey, you're in alignment and everything you want, you will be provided for. Everything you want, everything you need is right here. Boom, like that, within hours, right? Well, this can happen with your husband, with your wife, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, or your partner, okay? It can happen. Wow, my light just went out there. So I want you to know that that is possible for you, okay? But it requires you to really just let yourself love yourself enough to become flexible and to surrender. Okay? So breathe in the moment. Keep in mind that you are able to, stay with exactly what you need to stay with, which means that good feeling. If it feels right and good, then you can have that. Okay? And that when you're feeling that anxiety, when you're feeling that tension, that means that you're actually in a weak spot, okay? Not in a strong spot. Be more like a willow tree than an oak tree. The willow tree in the biggest storm is always able to move. The oak tree, no matter how big and strong it is, it might be able to touch the sky in an essence. But when a storm comes through, it is so rigid that it will break. Don't be the oak, even though you perceive it as strong. Be more like the willow, where you can go with the flow, where you can be resilient, you can be adaptable. And how can you be proactive in anything that's coming at you, especially in your intimate relationships? Okay, on that note, I love you guys. Look for another Conscious Coffee coming up in a couple days and all that good stuff. I hope you have a beautiful, blessed day and end of the week coming up here. And if you would like more information on how to really get into alignment in your love life, in your work life, with your finances, your health, your well-being, reach out to me. I have some beautiful programs that can assist you in that process. And before you know it, within the next 90 days, you could have everything just magnetizing to you with ease and flow. Can you imagine that? That means that you have to claim your life today. As always, stop existing, start living, and I will catch you another day with another Conscious Coffee. Bye, everybody.